Hello everyone. Welcome to episode 14 of Wasted Wanderers podcast. I am JD from Bay Area and I have with me Abhi from Vancouver. We have an interesting set of topics today, so let's not waste time and let's get started. Abhi, how are you doing?
Doing great, everyone. Nice to see you guys again. We finally have started receiving comments on this podcast, so I'm very thankful to all our subscribers who are engaging. And yeah, hope you guys are all looking forward to the weekend. And there's no better way to start the weekend than by listening to Wasted Wanderers, the latest episode. Let's dive right in, everyone.
All right, so let's get started. Our first news is the big one. OpenAI and Microsoft reach deal to give startup new freedom. Now, the most powerful alliance in tech just hit the reset button. OpenAI and Microsoft are redrawing the lines of their $13 billion partnership as their honeymoon phase officially ends. So we are watching a marriage of convenience turn into a cold war for future of AI. So let me break it down what's happening. Microsoft and OpenAI have basically loosened their exclusive ties, and the new agreement allows OpenAI to sell technology to Microsoft's rivals and use Microsoft rivals' cloud products, cloud infrastructure. And for Microsoft, uh, it secures a guaranteed 20% cut of that revenue through 2030. So, if you remember, it looked like a lot of news reports were showing that OpenAI was handcuffed to Microsoft's Azure, which is their cloud arm. And it looked like Microsoft was unsuccessful or had reached capacity on how much it could support OpenAI's customers who were using their models through Azure. And there were other factors also, like OpenAI was actually taking a cut of all revenues. I think it was 20% or something when customers used ChatGPT models on Azure. And lastly, everybody remembers Microsoft Copilot. If you don't, you haven't missed anything. It was actually powered by OpenAI models in the background, but it flopped massively. Like Microsoft decided to include it with their Office suite, Windows 11, and it annoyed the hell out of customers. They didn't ask for it, and Microsoft had to backtrack. And now I think they've removed all the Copilot branding. I mean, personally, if you ask me, they should have named it like Clippy. If somebody remembers Clippy from old Microsoft products, they should have named it that instead of Copilot.
Don't
Copilot
reveal our
sounds
age,
like
JD, that we know what Clippy is. No,
yeah.
we were both born after Clippy came and died.
Mm. I remember Clippy because I had like an old version or something. But like Copilot sounds like, something from an airline or, like Tesla Copilot or something. It doesn't sound like chat model. Anyways, um, OpenAI is now aggressively diversifying its infrastructure to avoid total reliance on Microsoft. So they've secured massive compute deals with Oracle and Amazon. So why is Sam Altman building this multi-cloud empire, right? Like what's the issue? Well, once you get to a certain point, you need your own infrastructure. Um, and I've seen, like, I think they have reached or will reach a billion weekly active users. So that's a massive amount of data. I mean, you kind of need a data center. No provider can provide you with that much space in their infrastructure. So this is one thing that they're doing. Another thing that they're doing to tackle building their own data center is the Stargate project that they announced with Oracle, SoftBank, and Amazon. So that's a $600 billion investment into building custom data centers just for OpenAI. I don't know how much of that 600 billion is actual money and how much is just investment that will flow back into Oracle and Amazon, but that's like besides the point. So in the end, OpenAI is no longer locked inside Microsoft Azure's walled garden. By launching its most advanced model on Amazon Bedrock and Oracle Cloud, the company can now reach thousands of enterprise customers who already have billions of existing cloud credits. This is a big thing, because Anthropic is killing it in this space. They are growing like crazy in the enterprise market, and OpenAI should do something about it. I mean, they're doing it, but yeah, I think they should do more. Abhijit, your thoughts?
So before I get into this, guys, I think JD was wrong about one thing. Copilot is not the worst assistant available. And I say this with full responsibility. As someone who has used Apple products for a long time, come on, it's always going to be Siri. Nothing beats the mediocrity. like, I think Apple almost takes pride in this now that, oh my god, year after year, like one of the best camera setups. Okay, amazing ecosystem, but we have that flagship Siri, which is just anyway. We can talk about that later. See, whichever way I see this deal, right? It's definitely, Microsoft is getting the short end of the stick. This story that we have on the top, the primary one, it basically says Microsoft lost 1% share value on the day this was announced. And honestly, fine, everyone loses their shit over 1%, but it's Microsoft. Like, it's 1% up and down doesn't mean anything. I think their stock is around 400, so if it falls $40, big shit. So my take on this is that OpenAI is diversifying its investor base, and Oracle and Microsoft are now in some way balancing each other. In probably one of the most unhealthy ways ever, but that's a separate discussion. Like, Oracle's just staring down a deep hole. And if that Stargate data center doesn't work out, then we'll see how long Oracle itself will exist. But coming back to OpenAI, right? They're still struggling to have paying customers for their paid chat GPT subscriptions. But the one thing this article is not mentioning is the deal that OpenAI has with the military. I don't know if that has been made public, but that, along with its deal with Oracle and along with its capability, or I guess they kind of backtracked from the whole MOU they had with SK Hynix, or one of the Korean memory manufacturers. But basically, my take on this is the deal with the military and the deal with Oracle is giving OpenAI more leverage in the relationship with Microsoft. And Microsoft just doesn't have a choice, because maybe not the shittiest, but Copilot is a very close second when it comes to LLM support. I think the agent side of Copilot works pretty well, at least from what I have used. But your vanilla Copilot, I mean, Good Friday on a Wednesday, so I'm not sure why it's not able to keep up as well as ChatGPT or your Claude or your Gemini or anything. Uh, Microsoft will eventually have to decide how deep they want to embed themselves in this AI game. And I think we have seen that with Windows 11, like Copilot just being shoved down everyone's throats, that Microsoft has made its choice. My only word of caution to Microsoft would be that don't lose your moat over the rosy picture that AI paints. People are looking at the full time equivalent headcounts of all the Mac 7, not just Microsoft. All of them are saying AI layoffs, AI layoffs. Their full time headcount has gone up. And if and I'm going to leave you guys with some suspense, but Indian rupee has depreciated 20 rupees in the past 2 to 3 years. Join the dots, everyone. Just join the dots. That's my take on this. That the whole AI dream that every company wants to bet on, the winner will be Google and Apple, as I look at it from now. Apple because it decided to sit back and relax while the hype blows over. Google because it is the king of data. Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI, ChatGPT, or Claude, or Anthropic, everyone, they can make sophisticated models. They just don't have the access to the breadth of data Google has. None of them even come close. So choose. All I can tell all the other Mag 7.5, whatever that number is these days, is choose your battles carefully. That's my take. All right, guys, let's get to the next one for the day. It's going to be spicier than the first one. So, Prime Minister Carney has announced the creation of Canada's first national sovereign wealth fund. This has been done in many countries all over the world, Norway being the most prominent example, Saudi Arabia another one. Now, JD will talk about a couple of other ones that have been tried even within Canada. Before I launch into almost a rant that's going to follow, I think the administration's intent is solid. I think their intention is their heart, their mind is in the right place when it comes to this concept. But I also think that they're dealing with such a divided Canada that I don't know what major construction projects will be funded. And there are two examples given below, but I'll get to those. JD, let's get your introductory thoughts.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, they are launching a national wealth fund to finance all these massive energy and infrastructure projects, sorry, that they've announced. Um, and I guess Prime Minister Carney's strategy is moving beyond like these short-term budget cycles to allow for the government to act as a primary investor in long-term industrial growth. So they want to institutionalize all these massive bets that they're taking into a sovereign fund. Now, I want to give a little bit of background and history of what is a sovereign fund. It's basically a financial fund that is managed by a state, a country. And there are a lot of big ones. Norway has one, Singapore has one. Uh, and the first one, actually, the concept of the a sovereign fund was actually Canadian. So Alberta's Heritage Saving Trust Fund was launched in 1976. And now you might ask, okay, where is it now? It must be worth trillions of dollars. But it's not. Like, its growth eventually stalled, and the previous Alberta governments used the fund's interest to balance daily budgets and avoid taxes, right? Instead of letting it grow. And it was very political, and people just took out funds wherever they wanted. And now it's at $23 billion. Uh, Now I'm going to talk about like the top three funds in the world and when did they get started, how much money do they have? So number one is the Norway's government pension global fund. So it was launched in 96 and it's worth $1.7 trillion. So this is the biggest one by far, and they've put in money that they earned from their gas and oil reserves. Norway is a big producer of oil and gas, but it's a gold standard for turning natural resource wealth into long term stability. The second one is the China Investment Corporation. So that's 1.35 trillion, was launched in 2007. So I think it started with a lot of money, all the surplus that China had from US. And then the third one is Abu Dhabi Investment Authority. That's around 990 billion. So that started in actually around the 1970s, right after Alberta. But the growth didn't happen until the 90s and the 2000 when it actually started investing in stuff. Like earlier, it was just like a piggy bank for the royals to spend as they wanted. Um, so, I mean, besides these, also, India also started NIIF, National Investment and Infrastructure Fund, kind of like uh, the fund we are talking about. So that was started in 2015 and it manages around 5 billion in assets. Not bad. And there's another one that was recently announced. Like I was looking this up, Bharat Sovereign Wealth Fund. So their target is to start with $50 billion. So I think they're planning something big. We don't have all the details, but we would talk about it when we get it. So now, why is this important for Canada? Again, as I said, like it's announced so many infrastructure projects, and you would want some long-term fund to manage those instead of short-term. And you, like Carney can set it up so we directly invest in these massive infrastructures such as airport, utilities, real estate, things like that. And maybe directly into some companies also, like these fast growing tech companies. I don't know, but yeah, Bijit, continue.
See, I like the idea. There's two things that I find missing from this story. The reason Norway's fund became so rich is because they had a hard spending limit on it. I think it was 3%, 5% every year. You could not spend more than that every year, come what may. And that's how, since they were able to retain capital and then reinvest, that's how it grew to the $1 trillion it grew to. I'm not seeing any spending limit, at least in this news article. That would be one blaring eyesore. Now, the other thing is, let's take a look at the two headlines that are below the primary one. Bloc Quebecois tells Nova Scotia Premier Quebec will not be a highway for dirty oil and gas. This obviously, this was last year. And hereditary chiefs say no access to Wet'suwet'en territory until BC addresses title issues. Now, both of these are to do with oil and gas. See, I consider Quebec as like the Bengal of Canada for all our Indian friends, right? Extreme pride and culture, and then an absolute, like, just Montreal has some of the worst infrastructure that I've ever been on in North America. I don't even care what anyone thinks. The roads are just filled with potholes after potholes after potholes. The traffic is crazy. I would give Montreal some credit for snow cleaning. I think they're bloody amazing at it. But seriously, guys, yes, your culture is fine. It's a great culture, the French culture, sure. Or Canadian French culture, sure, amazing. You are a part of a country that has the fourth largest oil reserves in the world. Canada should be the one selling cheap oil to everyone who's willing to buy, and should be providing its own citizens with $1 a liter oil. That'll never happen, I know it. But we should at least use our own resources for our own benefit. Now, in an environment like this, by the way, this wet nonsense, this happened in 2020, it's still going on. So that's why I think the pipeline is done, but has nothing in it because all this jazz. There's a Gemini summary that we'll show you guys on the next slide. I mean, yeah, you could repair a few bridges. You could even make the roads better. Um, you could start providing more medical healthcare facilities in the rural areas. Not to mention, even the urban ones need to be improved, at least maybe not improved in the quality perspective. I think Canada has some of the best quality healthcare, just not enough quantity. So that could also be looked at. But again, the major drivers, by the way, all these things I just mentioned, this is about spending money. You don't get anything in return. Sure, healthcare, I'll put it aside as a necessity that you have to invest on. But other than that, if there's no return on your investment, you're just burning cash. Canada is a resource rich country that should be selling its resources in all markets all over the world, getting that money and then reinvesting in maybe providing AI models from the government. I know everyone's always wary of the government, but India is already doing that. It's called the India AI Course. Please go check out that website. I've mentioned this in a couple of lives on the Narad News channel as well, and maybe in one of the lives here, that's one model that you could look at for providing easy access to AI for everyone. You could be investing in, you could be incentivizing your private sector to start building Canadian version of ChatGPT, Canadian version of Claude. But again, if all these projects that are going to cause headaches to even get passed, I mean, I've met well-meaning Canadians who are convinced that the country doesn't need a pipeline. Oh my God! Your Ontario sector that produces the most GDP per capita does, or maybe Alberta does, but okay, Ontario has Toronto, so it's the biggest metropolitan area, most number of people. 70% of your population lives in the Windsor, Quebec City corridor, and it does not have its own energy infrastructure. You gotta be kidding me. I'll go to the next one because I could keep going on and on about this. Here is a whole summary of the Wet'suwet'en stuff that's been going on since 2020. Bottom line, the pipeline construction completed in 2023. This is Amnesty International. Legal battles over the validity of the land defense and the implementation of Aboriginal title are ongoing. I have been on a project where we had to serve the indigenous peoples, the First Nations. It was it was basically a project for a provincial government. I won't tell you which province, but this gets overly complicated. The population of Canada is 41 million. It's New Delhi and Mumbai combined. On that note, we also got some feedback on this channel that JD and I are two non-Canadians talking about Canadian issues. I want to make it clear, both JD and I are Canadian citizens, lawful, yes, naturalized, so maybe not as kosher as some might want, but we are as legal as it gets. And we are happy to be educated. No, we are not claiming that we are perfect. We are happy to be educated. But to tell us that we are not Canadians, um, I think I think there needs to be some introspection on that. JD, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, that comment took me by surprise also. Like, I mean, we are very proud Canadians who like to talk about Canadian topics that no other podcast is talking about. And we are very proud. Yeah.
And lastly, I think we have discussed this one. I don't want to. I thought I would want to talk about it, but you know, eventually when progress is stalled, and I think it's changed in 2026 anyway, in the latter half of 2025 and 2026. But when progress is stalled and it's not as fast as it should be, that's when we see news like this. This does not make anyone happy. I live in the Vancouver area. I love living in the Vancouver area. I at least in the near future, I don't have any plans of moving. It's I still roam around the city whenever I'm taking the train or the sky train that goes mostly above ground. It's bloody beautiful. But if we keep running into issues on projects that the country needs to recover from all the things that happened, you know, up till 2024, give or take, then that's when such stats show up. Anyway, I think this is all public information, so it's just that while we do have an administration that is doing a pretty good job of reviving the country, as Canadians, we have a responsibility to ensure that we are united in these efforts. We I had tried to run a trend on Narad News and over here. I called it "Make Economics First" again, and I think I want to reiterate that. Let's make economics first again, at least in the medium term, so that we get out of the mess that we were in 2024 for whatever reasons, and let's get back to being the fourth, fifth most lovely country to live in, as we were uh, back in the 2010s. Anyways, guys, let's go to the last story for the day. This is a slightly funny one. JD, kick us off.
Yeah, this is very interesting because we are returning to tech stories again. So, Netflix just went full TikTok. The world's biggest streamer is ditching its famous rows for an infinite scroll of vertical clips. Is this a genius move, or are we watching the end of Netflix era as we know it? That's a big question. So, what's happening? Well, Netflix is changing its design. I think the first time in a decade, and it's marking a hard shift away from choice based browsing. So, if anybody knows, when you have to scroll infinitely to find something that you like on Netflix, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with that. And now they're moving more towards an algorithm fed experience. So, just like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. I mean, everything is moving there, so I'm not surprised. But what I am surprised is it's kind of looks like it's surrendering to this vertical video format. Like, it is a direct attack on other companies like YouTube Shorts and TikTok. So it's directly attacking their territory, and it's designed to capture micro moments of attention when users aren't fully ready to commit a full hour of television. But it still like leaves a really bad taste in my mouth, at least because I remember Netflix back when It was like $7 a month, and it used to have all the movies before the studio started yanking all the movies and shows away. But now it feels like all the high production 2 minutes trailers will be replaced by these 15-second vibe clips, right? So Netflix is basically gambling that these raw vertical snippets will drive more discovery, more engagement than traditional uh, marketing. I mean, I understand because Netflix is a data driven company first, and I'm sure they've looked at the data and figured out, okay, we need to do this. And it has uprooted Hollywood and changed its business model in the past. So I'm sure it might be successful. But uh, I also feel like this is the only thing they can do right now, because their previous strategy of acquiring HBO and Warner Brothers Studios, that didn't happen. So now what is the other thing they can do? And even if, you know, they are number 4 after YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, it'll still increase their value, because they can say like, oh, more people are engaged with our content, the evergreen tech metric. So all in all, good for Netflix, good for shareholders, not good for consumers. Abhijit, your thoughts?
There's a word that is being sort of flagged on YouTube, but it starts with the E and ends with the N, and it's pretty long. And I'm pretty sure our viewers are more than intelligent enough to figure out what I'm saying. But I would take this step as the starting point towards that. But I also feel Netflix just doesn't have a choice, because in everyone succumbed to it. Even bloody LinkedIn, which was supposed to be a, well, LinkedIn anyway. It's the best social media platform ever invented. Let's just leave it at that. So I think Netflix has succumbed to pressure. I know they started games, and I just don't know how successful that's going. I would argue that they are trying a few of these hit and run models. They are trying a few different things to see what can best keep people hooked onto the platform. But I would argue that Netflix's problem is not due to Netflix at all. I think there is a growing awareness among consumers of all platforms, social media, streaming, that the algorithm is designed to keep you hooked. And everyone is making, at least a fair number of people are taking a conscious decision to either stick to long form content so that in some way they can preserve their attention spans, or take technology breaks. When I go into my office every day, I have to take the train. Um, and yeah, it takes about 40 minutes, 50 minutes. So I always take a paperback book, not an ebook, not a Kindle, nothing. A paperback book that I read on the train. Sure, out of the 40 minutes, I may get 30 minutes to read. Maybe I won't even get a place to sit. All that happens. But that's what I'm personally doing to keep that habit alive. And then on the way back, I'll get maybe 30 other minutes. So that's how I get, let's say, 1 hour of reading in uh, every 2 to 3 days a week, depending on how many times I choose to go in. I know many people are setting aside blocks of time to just sit and read, or literally just do nothing and just enjoy the boredom, so that they can detox from all these habit forming platforms. So Netflix is going down this path. I would say that if they decide to double down on it, this is a very dark alley that they are going to pursue, because eventually the quality of the content will drop. For everything Netflix may or may not be, the quality of the content is pretty good. Apart from the occasional controversy that pops up, oh, Dhurandar's color scheme looks bad. Maybe your TV is shitty, man. Like I saw it on my TV, it looked okay. Um, but anyway, I think there was some reality to that, because obviously the second movie is now going on a different platform. But be that as it may, for everything Netflix may or may not be, it's a decent platform. They have tried a lot of tactics, increasing prices, locking down users in their to their family bubble and everything, and I think all of that has worked to some extent. But at some point, not just Netflix, but all the other big tech companies will have to realize that there is just a finite amount of revenue they can generate proportionately every year. Otherwise, people will just start blocking them out. And everyone has to remember that information technology is, especially the discretionary side of IT, is exactly that. It's discretionary. People will find ways to get off them. Not everyone is a Microsoft or an Apple with moats that can't be breached no matter what you do. And Netflix is definitely not one of those. I would argue for Netflix is to keep the quality going, keep the prices where they are, and increase them in relation to the real inflation rate, and people will be happy to just pay up. But if you go down too far on this path, then you risk becoming one of those platforms where there are these short form dramas that literally are summed up in like 20 reels, and one reel is like 5 minutes. I forgot. It's a form of K dramas and Asian dramas that is becoming very popular, and all of them are just slop to the worst. Like it's 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 the worst thing that's happened since vertical scrolling was invented. So it's up to them how they want to run the company, but this is a very thin wire that they have started treading on, in my opinion. Okay, guys, so that brings us to the end of the show today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Signing off for today. JD, your closing thoughts?
Yeah, thanks to everyone who subscribed and who share our videos. It means a lot to us. And remember, go outside and touch grass. Always important. We'll see you again.